Children's behaviour. What is a child? A child is a sponge absorbing everything it sees and hears around it, reacting to its circumstances, just reacting and learning and trying to mimic what it sees and around itself. Okay, hello and welcome to another English podcast with Paul. I'm your host, Paul. So today we're talking about children's behaviours and how to deal with those and what they are. So I'll break it down into a few different aspects and let's see how we get on from there. Okay, so I've got some notes, but as I always say, this is unscripted, unedited, natural English conversation, natural native English conversation for you guys to listen to. If you're B2 intermediate or C1 and you're looking to enhance your vocabulary or just listen to some discussion at a native speed with native errors and pauses, then this is a prime opportunity for you to plug in and turn up the dial and listen away. But if you're driving, please just focus on driving and let this just wash over you. Right, let's go then. Let's go. Right. So, like I said, what is a child? Well, child is a product of their environment. They are very much a sponge. They mimic and copy everything they see and hear, whether it's from siblings and parents or other children at school. So they are very, very clever, very creative. And like all creatures, they try to fit in, they try to do what everybody else is doing, and they try to get their own way. They try to get things that they want. And that's the same throughout nature, whether it's a monkey or a tiger or a lion. You know, it tries to get the best and then it learns from there. Right, okay. Right, why do children act as they do? Okay, so creatures that try to be different, creatures that try different. Oh, I don't know what that note is. I wrote these notes down and now I don't understand them sometimes. But this is part of being native and natural and unscripted. All right, so why do children act as they do? Well, like I said, because they are a sponge, because they are mimicking, you know, they're a bit like a parrot. They want to fit in. You know, if you were in work and everybody was doing one thing and you were new to that environment, you try to fit in like everybody else. Okay, so that is the big thing, fitting in, learning, trying everything, trying lots of different things. So that's why a child acts as they do, because they are literally just responding, you know, to the ego within their bodies. You know, they want food, they want freedom of movement, they want warmth, they want comfort. They are just trying all things they can to get what they think they need. All right, just acting on their ego. All right then. So, but what about the consequences of not having boundaries? So that's the big thing. Most people understand already the consequences of not having boundaries, and some people don't. So really boundaries can have a number of problems, not just for children, but later on as they grow up into young adults. So for example, it can really have an effect on one's grade in school, one's educational grade. Not having boundaries understood and understanding the implications of not having boundaries at home, the child may not understand how to use those boundaries in a school setting, or learn bad boundaries at home and then, or learn not about boundaries at home and then not understand them in a school. So some of the issues you could have attachment issues, you know, to members of the family. There could be problems making friends at school, and then potentially relationships later on in life being very difficult. You could get misdiagnosed with things like ADHD or autism because of not understanding this construct of relationships. Other children may not respect that child, and that child may struggle making friendships in the classroom. So there's that issue. Other people may avoid that child because of lack of boundaries and respect. Nobody likes somebody that just bullies their way into everything. So there's that issue. Also, then other children may be affected and consider that child a bully because that child only knows how to get their own way from that behavior, bad behaviors, learnt behaviors to get their own way, is kind of the opposite effect of not having boundaries and not learning and understanding. Okay, so that is just a very quick, brief guide about not having boundaries. There's obviously a lot more involved with that. There's a lot more you can investigate and research for yourself there. All right, so how to put boundaries in. How to put boundaries in. So you want to be clear and concise and consistent, all right? That's the three main goals: clear, concise, and consistent, okay? That sounds very obvious. You may have heard that lots of times, but it's really, really hard to keep to your boundaries, keep to your rules. Now, everybody's an individual. You can choose your boundaries. You can choose your rules within the household. Everybody is different. Everybody is personal. But you must stick to the same ones again and again and again. Sticking to them is absolute paramount. It shows a message to the child that you are a person of your word. If you mean there will be a treat at the end of the activity or the end of the time frame, then there will be a treat at the end of the time frame, because that child trusts you, and it's about building respect. All right, and then having rewards for positive behavior, and also maybe having it written down so that the child can see, even if the child doesn't fully understand it, the child knows where the rules are kept. All right, so having it written down, and have a similar behavior for yourself, a similar rule for yourself. You can't say to this child that they must eat their veg on their plate and then let other children or other adults not eat their vegetables, because that's conflicting and that doesn't feel fair to the child, and then that harbors resentment and issues of equality or inequality. So that's very difficult for people to understand. Having one rule for the child and also the same rule for the rest of the people in the household. But like I said, clear, consistent, and consequences. Clear, consistent, concise. Clear, consistent, concise. So if the rule is no elbows on the table, then no elbows on the table. If that's your rule, then it should be the same for everybody in that house. That's pretty clear. You can have it written down and you can have consequences for it. So consequences are a big part of boundaries. We all have to accept and learn and know about consequences. Okay, it doesn't matter how old you are, there are consequences for every action or inaction that you choose to do in life. Whether it's speeding in your car, or not paying your bills on time, or just running out into the road. There are consequences. You could not get away from it. All right? That's part of living in a society with rules and regulations. There are consequences. So consequences are a very good, quick, clear and easy way for a child to understand why we stay within these boundaries. Because if not, there's consequences. Consequences are the same for everyone, no matter who you are. Consequences. Now, consequences should be, all right, what's the term? Appropriate for the misdemeanor, for the crime. There's no point in saying to the child, okay, you didn't eat your vegetables, so you're sitting on the step for 3 days, or you didn't do this, so this is going to be the really scary punishment. It has to be fair for the punishment. That's another thing. Many people parents get very upset and frustrated and angry with a child, and so they tend to over enforce the consequence, and then having to retract a little bit on it later when they've cooled off and calmed down. So try not to give a very harsh punishment or consequence for a child's action, because it could be hard to be concise, and it could be hard to stick to that. All right, okay. So what boundaries should you have? Now, as I said before, they're all personal, whether it's your physical, whether it's appropriate behavior for a specific place. But mainly it's about communication, acceptance, and forgiveness. Your child may, I don't know, throw a cup and it hit you on the head. You have to learn to forgive pretty quick. So explaining to the child they should apologize and that that you forgive them and you move forward is a very good lesson for the future in regards to making relationships and friendships with other children. So, like I said, forgiveness, acceptance of what's an adult, and communicate, all right? Communicate in a calm, relaxed, happy manner. So that's another part of it, about boundaries. So, like I say, boundaries are very personal. You can have boundaries of many things, like not going upstairs without an adult after you've taken away the stair gate, or boundaries of do not put stuff into the toaster, or do not, come into the kitchen. Whatever your boundaries are, it is much better to educate your child as to why that boundary is there for their safety, as opposed to trying to block it altogether. So, for example, a radiator. Often the radiators are hot, and is much better to teach the radiator what is hot and what is not hot in a controlled manner, in a controlled, careful manner. So that way you don't have to protect your home from everything from the child. You'd end up wrapping your child up in cotton wool and the whole world in cotton wool. But some things you have to just educate your child to, whether it's a glass cabinet or whether it's a hot kettle. You have to educate your child at some point. The sooner the better. And the less boundaries you have to put in, physical boundaries you have to put in place. But other emotional boundaries and physical boundaries, such as bedtime, such as playtime, often come with good parents come with a really good attitude to giving, like a time limit. Okay, so the boundaries are you must be in bed by 9 o'clock, for example. So you might say, okay, it's 8:45 now. Don't forget you need to brush your teeth and get into pajamas. So if you you got 5 more minutes and then we need to get ready. And then go back another 5 more minutes later and say, look, okay, you've virtually run out of time. You've got a couple minutes left. All right, so you're giving the child warning and you're getting them ready to understand what's going to happen. And then, like I said before, you stick to your boundaries, you stick to your guns, no matter what. Just always stick to it. So that child can trust that you are a person of your word. That child knows that you are going to do what you say you're going to do and follow through. Okay, that's very, very difficult, I know, for all parents. When you're pulling your hair out and child is screaming, it's very, very difficult to stick to your guns, to stick to your word and do what you say you're going to do. Yeah, that's always difficult. All right. Lessons to teach your child for the future. So you're always teaching your child. Your child is always learning. But sometimes it's worth being a little bit proactive and thinking to yourself, what things would be good for my child to learn? So there's the obvious ones like swimming and budgeting and good manners. And when is a good time to shout and when is not a good time to shout? So that is often more for older children to understand the ways of the world, about when you can stamp your feet and when not to, and how to be more understanding and polite to certain people. So I believe you should be polite to everybody, but definitely be polite and calm and respectful to those that have less interesting jobs, less meaningful jobs in some people's eyes. So maybe somebody that's a cleaner or somebody that's giving you food in a canteen. You should always be polite. So that I believe that to be a good lesson. Okay, forgiveness. That's very hard as well, to teach children how to forgive other children. Okay, what else I say? I said about those that are less fortunate. And understand that sometimes people have a bad day. Sometimes people have things going on at home that you don't know about. So allowing people to have a bad day occasionally is understandable and is expected. Not everybody's perfect all the time. But lessons to teach your child for the future. So that's some of the obvious ones. Some of the less obvious things to teach your child for the future is, well, like I said, about those that are less fortunate. Maybe your child comes across some other child that has very few toys or less I don't know, food in their packed lunchbox, or other things that are not so that they've noticed that the house is not as nice. So teaching your children to be proud and happy of who they are and what they have, but at the same time careful how they speak to other children in regards that they may be less fortunate, and to be respectful of other children. Other lessons for the child for the future would be how to communicate sensitively and compassionately. So communication is a very, very difficult skill that takes a long, long time to master. But definitely in regards that when my children get older, I said no a lot less. Most of the time I said yes. And so what I gave my child is the opportunity to earn extra hours on the video game, earn more time watching TV in the evening, earn staying out later with their friends. So they would say to me, you know, Dad, can I go to my friend's house for a sleepover? And all right, I might think they're a bit young, or I might think that it's not a good time for the family. But more often I would say yes. But in return, you have to do this. You have to earn it. So that's a good lesson to teach children, especially as they're getting older, to do chores, to do things around the house. Understand that the house doesn't run itself, and that we all have a part to play in looking after the home. So earning is one another lesson for my children I taught. Also negotiation. So as my children get a bit older, they say, oh, I want to stay up till this time. And I say, no, you can stay up till this time. Oh, but my program doesn't finish till this time. And then so you say, right, well, okay, so you can do that, but then you have to do something else in return. Or they'll say, no, I don't want to do that. I say, all right, well, what about if you watch half of it and then we'll record the other half of it? Or if they want money, they say, oh, I want this much money. You say, no, you can have this much money. Ah, but the toy I want is this much. So there's an opportunity to negotiate. So your child learns that there's not always a solid yes and a solid no. There's some ground to maneuver. This part of this communication skill that you can negotiate and you can earn. So these things help a child get what they want. Because ultimately, children and young adults want what they can't always have. They want to get something, all right? And you're the gatekeeper to what it is they want. So often children just want. And then so if you say, okay, yes, you can have that. but it's going to cost you this. Yes, we can work towards that, but you're going to have to do this first. And then they start asking less. They start thinking about things more themselves, whether they really want it and whether they're willing to work for this new thing. And that is the first steps and the first stages of critical thinking. Your child thinking about things more than just the ego saying, oh yeah, I want this, I want to have it now. The child starts thinking, I probably can get it, but I'd have to work for it. Do I want to work for this thing? Is it worth it to me? So that is those couple of things really help towards making your child think more, critical thinking, and be more mature in their wants and their requests. And it helps them to communicate better how they might want something and what would it cost. So those are very good lessons from a young age to communicate, negotiate, and what was it? Communicate, negotiate, and critical thinking. So those are really good aspects that you can put into your parenting. All right, okay. Dealing with other people's children. Wow. See, that's a topic all on its own. So lead by example. So often don't get sucked in to the drama of another child or another household, because they will come and go. They will come and go many times. But getting sucked into it can sometimes lead to people not being happy with you because their values may not be the same as yours. So try not to get sucked into other people's drama. All right? And like I said before, be upfront with the way you deal with stuff, the way you deal with things. If, for example, you have a children's party and the parents have gone and left you with the children, and you have children behaving badly, then I would generally treat them the same as your own child. Maybe you'd put them on the step, or you'd speak to them clearly in a calm voice. Look, you can't have this because of this reason. And I would treat the same. So your own children can see that you're being fair. The child you're talking about knows you're being fair. And then the parent will end up hearing about it. Well, I recommend you tell the parent straight away what happened and what you did. So there's clear line of communication. You're being straight and you're being direct and you're being honest and open. So that's the way I would deal with another family's child, the same as my own. So you're keeping it transparent. But generally, like in a park or where some other child has come up to your child and hit them, then it's very difficult to expect the other parent to have the same values as yours. It is worth going to the parent and asking the parent if you can approach their child. If they say no, then just walk away and come back another day. But explain to your child that's what you've done. So yeah, other people's children. And also in a supermarket, if your children are with you, they will see behaviors of other children. They've seen other behaviors at school, and they will see sometimes that you're always calm, you're always polite, you're always respecting your child and giving them communication. And they may see other parents and other families and other children reacting very inappropriately for that environment. So they would get to see that and understand that for themselves bit by bit over time. Okay. Rebellious age, 12 plus. Okay, rebellious age is a very trying time for the parents. It's very, very difficult for the parents. There's a lot of drama, a lot of emotion, and it can be very, very testing. But like I said before, if you keep to your boundaries, if you keep calm, and if you keep communication open, because at the end of the day, what you really want from your child, what you really, really want is open communication. You want to know if your child's having a bad day. You want to know if your child's being hurt. You want your child to trust you and to come to you if there's a problem. And your child won't come to you when they're 12, 13 years old if they don't trust you and if you don't listen. Okay? So make some time every day or every week where you check in with your child, that you know that they trust you. Tell them that you trust them. Tell them that you're proud of them. Tell them that you love them, all right? Be open and honest. So those three things are very important. But you still got to remember, this child is a human being with autonomy, with their own free will. So when a child gets to around the age of 12, they're able then to make up their own mind and their own decision. And that own mind and own decision will mean that they make choices and decisions that you don't agree with, that you don't like. But they're probably going to do it anyway. They'll find somewhere to go off with their friend and do these things, whether it's smoking cigarettes or whatever. They will do this without you, without your permission and without you knowing and without you being there. You cannot be with your child 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You have to send them to school, that you have to give them free time and allow them out. So you have to accept that they will do some of these things. And it's down to you to choose what consequences you have for this. But just remember, the stronger the consequence and the bigger the issue, the more likely they are to not trust you and not open up to you. So if you make less of a song and dance about a particular issue, then it's less likely to be rebellious and, oh, look, I can do this because I'm not supposed to. It's less likely to become a thing for the child. So for example, alcohol. Many people in England and France and Europe allow their children to drink a little bit of alcohol at home from the ages of, like, I don't know, 10, 11, 12, 13, just a tiny sip, just a tiny, tiny bit. As the child gets older, a little bit more and a little bit more with your meal, when you're out in a restaurant, just a tiny, tiny bit. And then so when the child gets to the age they're allowed to drink alcohol, it's not a big new thing, and they don't go out binge drinking because they understand what alcohol is. They understand that it's not a big taboo. It's not that interesting anymore, okay? So I'm not saying that approach works for everything. That approach won't work with everything, and certainly it depends on you as an individual and whether you're open to these things or whether you prefer not to be. Everybody is an individual, but you want your child to trust you. So the consequences, again, like I said, the consequences have to be proportionate, fair. All right, so you can't ground your child for a year because they did one small thing. It has to be proportionate, and when you're calm. So for example, when my teenager come home at 16, drunk, rang me up when they were drunk. I picked her up and her friend up, and we dropped them off, took them back, put my daughter to bed, and then we spoke about it the next day and about the hangover and all the fun it is to be loud the next morning. So you can't have a discussion with a drunk child. You don't want to be horrible to a drunk child. You want the drunk child to trust you, that if something is going awry, something is going bad, especially with girls, that they can trust you and that you will come and rescue them should something bad happen. So that's the way I believe to be a more open environment, a more trusting environment, and trusting relationship. Okay, and then have discussion the next day. All right, so that is one way of dealing with things. So like I said, once they get to 12, 13, 14, they're going to start doing things without your permission and without you knowing about it. And there's not a lot of things you can do. One major thing you can do, like I said, is saying yes to things, but allowing them to earn it. Age appropriate if you think it's appropriate. The other is giving them some respect in regards to allowing them to shut their door or allowing them a little bit more freedom and autonomy. All right? It's about mutual respect. If you respect them, they're more likely to respect you, and you can have more of a slowly progressing to an adult conversation. All right? You've got to stay calm. You really, really got to stay calm and relaxed, all right, and open to conversation. They could be drama and swearing, but if you remain calm, it shows them that you're somebody to trust, that you're calm and that you're listening, not erratically like they are, but you're calm, you're an adult acting like an adult, acting, I wouldn't say professionally, but acting in a manner that is consistent throughout your parenting, always consistent. So you're acting calm, you're listening, and you're willing to negotiate when it's a good time. I mean, it's not always a good time to negotiate. Maybe at 12 o'clock at night is not a good time to negotiate her staying out with her friends. So when it's a good time, you can sit down, have an open conversation, and negotiate terms of the next new thing that your child wants to do. But it's about respect. So they come to you when something bad is happening. Respect and trust. All right, that's the most important. Respect and trust. All right, again, that is your end goal, and it's not easy. So it's a two-way communication, and also, like I said, about forgiveness. All right, your child may do a misdemeanor, they may do something you're not happy with, but forgive them quick and help them focus on the next thing. Help them focus on something new or something exciting or something fresh. Look at how they can work towards something positive. All right, so that's children as they're getting older and more rebellious. All right, okay. So the next thing is you got to remember. So there's two more things. First of all, you got to remember you are human. All right, and I know say calm and consistent, but you are human. So long as you do it most of the time, that's going to be good enough. Being calm and respectful and consistent. But you're a human, okay? Sometimes you have a bad day. Sometimes you are feeling down or tired, all right? So give yourself a break. You are human. It's not easy to bring up teenagers, to bring up children. You will pull your hair out. You will end up crying. You will end up wishing that you never had kids. It's normal and natural. Children are very testing of your patience and of your humanity. Like I said, give yourself a break. It's an impossible task sometimes, and often not a very loved task. Sometimes it's a long time before you get any love or respect back. It could be from the age of 12 until the age of 25 before they decide to give you a hug and tell you they love you. That's just how young people grow. Okay, so give yourself a break, all right? You're doing the best you can. If you're struggling, then reach out. You don't have to do this on your own. Reach out. You can reach out to me, you can reach out to social services, and there are lots of other groups that are offering support, counseling, and help in these areas. But please, if you're struggling, do reach out. Do reach out. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to mention was red flags. Red flags. All right, so if you feel your child is not behaving appropriately or as they normally do, then there may be a red flag. Maybe they're being bullied, maybe they're bulimic or anorexic, maybe they're looking at moving into a cult. So there are a few, or maybe they're getting depressed. So look out for red flags. Look out for red flags are often sudden changes in behavior. So if they're a happy child and they suddenly become very, very sad, then it's worth investigating and trying to find out more. All right, red flags. So change in behavior, change in appetite, change in personal appearance, change in sudden changes in their choices, whether it's alcohol or cigarettes or something else, their personal choices. Also, in their regards to their personal space. If you're the mum and you're normally cuddling and they're like, oh, no, no, get away, don't touch me, don't touch me. Or you notice they're covering their arms and legs up for bruises. If there's anything sudden like that, then that could be a red flag, all right? And not any one of these things on their own is anything to worry about. But if you have 2 or 3 red flags or suspicions, then it's worth investigating further, and investigate not on your own, but with a partner or with a neighbor or with a friend, somebody that is trusted. Also, it's worth mentioning that often your child can access other services, whether it be Childline or a teacher at school or a counsellor. There are other services if your child doesn't want to tell you, but they're happy to tell somebody else. That's a trusted person. Then remind them that those options are available in regards to concerns and issues. All right, okay. So like I said, it's no easy going. It's a roller coaster of emotions. It's a difficult job being a parent. It's a very difficult job, and you don't get a lot of praise for it. So, don't beat yourself up. Don't beat yourself up. They will love you eventually. It's a very hard job. So my conclusion is, like I said, there's no handbook. It's very hard. There's no handbook to match your circumstances. You can get parenting books, you can get parenting advice, but nobody knows your life, nobody knows your family like you. So there is no book to tell you exactly what to do, only you know. It is very, very difficult. All right, okay. So there are no shortcuts, there's no easy answers, and like I said, you will get upset and go crazy and pull your hair out and cry and break down. So the main thing is that you have this chance now to build positive attitude for your children, boundaries and respect. All right, that's the aim here, is to build respect, clear communication and boundaries. All right, so that's all we got time for today. Thank you very much for listening to English Podcast with Paul. Feel free to check out the website, and you can listen to these on my website for free with no adverts. And I hope to see you there. Take care. Thanks for listening. And remember, always have fun. Have fun listening to English. Have fun, have fun, have fun. Oh, humor is the best answer for children as well. Humor is the medicine of life. Okay, so have fun, enjoy English, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.